show, our E3 2010 Gran Turismo 5 special report.
Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Jessica Lopez, and this is our E3 special report on Gran Turismo 5. This whole show is sponsored by SimRaceway.com, home of online racing. So here we are at the Gran Turismo 5 booth, and we came last year, couldn't find Gran Turismo 5. We're here this year. We're very excited that it's here. We got to check out a lot of cool events, starting with an event held by Mercedes-Benz celebrating the SLS at the SLS Hotel in Beverly Hills. Got to go there. It was an ultra exclusive event. Very few got invited. Honored to have been there. We got to play a demo of Gran Turismo 5. There was a lot of celebrities there. Kazunori was there. Got to eat. It was open bar. It was really cool. And here's a little take on what we did at the SLS Hotel.
After Tuesday's opening day of E3, Sony and Mercedes-Benz threw a little party to celebrate Gran Turismo 5 and the new Mercedes SLS AMG that will be featured in-game and on the cover of the game's box. The event took place on top of the SLS Hotel overlooking a trendy part of West Los Angeles. Kazunori himself would be in attendance, as well as some celebrities and of course the ISR staff. It would be drinks and food by a renowned chef and of course driving Gran Turismo 5. Not only would Gran Turismo 5 be available on this cool sim rig, but also a couple of smaller units throughout the party, including one running in 3D mode. This would be our first chance to see and drive Gran Turismo 5 with a proper setup. The one condition, we would only be driving the Mercedes SLS, but have a choice of tracks to drive it on. GT5 might be the best looking graphics on the planet, but you haven't seen anything until you've seen it in 3D. All in all, it was a great time and the perfect celebration of our opening day at E3.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing. Puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number one on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
Darren just got out of the breakout session with Sony, and they were discussing Gran Turismo 5, hosted by Kazunori Yamauchi. Tell us your thoughts. I mean, we're all excited to know what you heard in that meeting.
First of all, it was really cool to be invited to that because there was maybe just a handful of guys in there. Really, they talked about a lot of the new features. I couldn't get any footage of it, unfortunately, but one of the things in particular, NASCAR, they're going to have 9 different car models, or drivers, I guess you could say, and then they're going to add a few more. Debris, they're going to have debris coming off the cars, a photo mode, just a lot of really cool stuff. I got like 2 pages worth of notes.
Were you allowed to ask any questions?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I asked 2. My first question was on race distances, and are you going to be able to run a 24-hour race? And they said yes. He was kind of laughing at me that I asked that question because he was wondering who the heck would want to do that. And then I asked like NASCAR race distances, and he said yes. And then the other question was, are they going to add any more configurability or adjustability for the wheels? And he didn't really have an answer for that yet. So it's obviously not. It's obvious, versus what they had in Gran Turismo Prologue. So it's obviously something they haven't implemented yet, but
Questions only a sim racer would ask, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So this event was for a select group of media only. Darren got to attend, and he put a little small piece together, and here it is.
All right, well, initially I was just going to do a voiceover with some graphics. But when we originally filmed that was Wednesday, right after the breakout session. Most of this information's been out there in blogs, like at GT Planet and stuff like that. So decided just to have both of us sit here and give you our take firsthand of what we thought of Gran Turismo. We will talk about some of the things that we heard in the breakout session. You heard.
Well, you heard.
Yeah, I heard.
I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, and you heard some of the 2 questions that I had asked when I was with Jessica there. So I'm not going to go over those again. But so we're just going to go over a bunch of bullet points that I have here, talk about it, and let you guys hear our take. Pretty much.
That sounds good.
So first up, physics. I'll start with it really quick. Not much of a change, in my opinion, from Gran Turismo 5 Prologue. We could only run for 2 minutes in the demo, all the demos that we ran at the SLS event and at the show.
That means 2 minutes before it reset. We played for hours, but we only got 2-minute installments, so if you went on a really long track, you weren't even going to get all the way around.
Yeah, and some tracks you'd be able to get a whole lap and then it would stop. So that was kind of a bummer. So just in a nutshell, for all you Forza 3 owners and drivers, very similar. And again, maybe a step up from Gran Turismo 5 Prologue, but seemed very similar.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of tweaking to it to refine it. The thing for me, like Gran Turismo has great physics. It's a very drivable sim, but it has some qualities that make it Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
And so for those of you familiar with Gran Turismo, you're going to take to it right away. For those of you coming from other sims, it definitely has an acquired feel that's very drivable. I mean, very good physics.
Yeah, no question. And then comparing it to, say, an iRacing, you know, I took the stock car, the NASCAR, out at a road course and at Indianapolis. And definitely easier to drive than like an iRacing or an ARCA or even NASCAR 2003. Not as sim-like, but good. Probably going to be the best stock car racing on a console.
Absolutely. I can't even think of anything that could compete with it, really.
But oval track-wise, it's going to be a little limited if you think about it. We're kind of shifting gears here, but Indy and Daytona is going to be, unless they have some oval configurations out of the 20-plus tracks that they have. But anyway, we'll get to tracks in a minute.
Yeah, like you mentioned 20. I mean, so only so many of those are allocated to oval racing.
Yep. So next up, force feedback, which is tied to physics to an extent. Definitely an improvement, in my opinion, from Gran Turismo 5 Prologue. I felt more connected, felt like the bumps and stuff really coming through more accurately and crisper, I guess you could say.
Yeah, like maybe even a quicker delivery. Closer to one-to-one like we're always talking about.
Yeah, where the rubber meets the road, you can, I felt, like I said, more connected. So I definitely felt an improvement there. Didn't see any dead zone issues, or, I mean, all the cars seem to react properly.
I think that might be the biggest difference in force feedback between like Prologue and GT5 is that dead zone seems to definitely be right on now.
Proper, yeah. Now here's a big debate in the community right now: premium versus standard cars. They're talking over 1,000 cars, 800 that are standard, called standard cars, 200 that are going to be premium, and the premium cars are going to be super high detail. Detailed cockpits, now there's the big debate right now, or question. Damage, deformation, separation of panels on the premium cars. This is their quote, that they put so much detail, Kazunori's quote from the breakout session I went to, that they put so much detail in these premium cars that they've really pushed the PS3 to its limit. And they actually said that they spent maybe too much time on these premium cars, which is maybe part of the reason why it's been delayed for so long.
Forever.
They're so detailed that even the safety wire in the cockpit of the GT500 cars were modeled. We got some photos of it here.
That's amazing. You know, when I hear things like premium versus standard, I sometimes get afraid. You got to remember that the standard cars, we're talking like at least Prologue level. So Prologue was one of the most spectacular looking games that I've ever seen. The cars are beautiful. So using that as like a starting point and to expand on that is just, I mean, you're really talking some of the best work ever.
Yeah, and again, all these 800 standard cars are going to be reworked. They're not just going to be dumped from those old games into to Gran Turismo 5.
Yeah.
So the big debate or question is, are there going to be cockpits in the standard cars? We asked, you're going to see in our interview here, Sean asked him 3 times, he wouldn't answer the question. I wish I would have thought to ask it when I was in the breakout session, but I was kind of nervous, to be honest, being there around a bunch of press and
well, it was so limited. It's like they handcuffed you going in.
Yeah, and I didn't even know I was going to ask questions.
Right.
Honestly, there was questions and answers at the end of the breakout session, and I was like, what can I ask? What can I ask? And I came up with those too. But so we don't know yet. I've asked my Sony rep. As soon as we get word confirmation, you can either find it at our blog, racesimcentral.com, or here on the show, we'll let you know.
Yeah. Before we leave the topic of cars, I just want to say, when you talk about 1,000 of the best modeled cars ever, this is the greatest car museum ever. I mean, I've been to Peterson here in Los Angeles, which is a great car museum. Maybe they have a couple hundred cars on a good day. we have 1,000 cars to look at in full beauty. It's just, I mean, this is a virtual car museum. It's the best one I've ever been to.
It is, that you can drive, yeah, and it's you know, Forza's great. You know, we're going to the 360. We love Forza, but it's not going to have as many cars.
Right.
You know, is that a problem? You know, is that maybe why it's taken Gran Turismo so long, you know, 5 to come out? And how are the physics going to be on those 1,000 cars? Or,
right.
You know, how accurate? So.
Right. And that's the thing also, when you divide it amongst so many different types of racing series, rally, NASCAR, GT cars, open-wheeled cars, and then times 1,000 cars, you got to kind of miss something. You're not as specialized as something that's doing one type of car only.
Well, and you know, one real quick thing on the cars, and then I want to transfer to tracks because it's all kind of in relation. The bottom of the cars are going to be modeled now because you can now flip them, which is cool. So that adds a little more freedom to the physics and makes it a little more lifelike there. But then going to the tracks, 20 tracks, 70 variations. You know, yeah, there's going to be rally. Yeah, there's going to be NASCAR. Oh, and supposedly they just announced a track editor. I don't know how detailed that's going to be, and if that's an accurate announcement, we'll soon see. But
that's kind of gone back and forth, or no quotable sources ever.
Sony Europe is the one that mentioned it, but we're not confirming that here. But you know, you're going to be a little limited as far as being able to run a real NASCAR season. Yeah, there's going to be, back to NASCAR, there's going to be yellow flags, and they're trying to get all the rules in there. But you know, in my opinion, they're spreading themselves out a little too much, which is cool. I mean, you get but it could also hinder it a little bit. You know, WRC is going to be all rally. We saw WRC. We're going to have a special on that. But you know, there's 78 stages of rally.
Exactly.
How many stages are going to be in Gran Turismo?
That's where the trade-off comes when you talk about something that's bundled so much into one title like Gran Turismo.
But now the tracks, 20 tracks. Incredibly modeled. I mean, these street circuits, they're fantasy, but based on real, real streets, are just amazingly detailed.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the most lively tracks in all of sim racing and racing games in general.
Yeah, I would hands down give them the award for just the most realism. So when you're watching the replays or driving the game, what you see feels like you're really there, more so than any. I mean, a new level.
Yeah, Nordschleife, they've actually got all the graffiti modeled properly, except for the profanity. They've had to go in and take out anything that was profane. But
can you imagine double-checking all the languages at that track, too?
Yeah, and so they've gone through and remodeled all of that. So, you know, very high detail tracks. Lots of feel in the tracks, the road surface.
Yeah.
I went to Le Mans and was driving, and, you know, lots of chatter over the bumps and stuff. Yeah. So I think they've done a really good job.
Yeah.
So we're going to cut this part in half here. We got the interview with Chris Hinojosa Miranda, I believe was the guy's name.
That's exactly his name.
He's a associate producer from Sony, based here in Santa Monica, California, and he didn't really give us much, to be honest. No offense, Chris, if you're watching, man. We were
grilling you, but you were tight-lipped.
Yeah, he was tight-lipped. But we're going to run that for you. Quick commercial break, and we'll be back.
For all of your sim racing news and reviews, check out RaceSimCentral.com.
So I'm here with Chris, who's an associate producer with Gran Turismo for Gran Turismo 5, or with Sony for Gran Turismo 5. And yesterday, Darren was able to attend the breakout session for Sony, but we still had some questions, so everything wasn't answered, or at least maybe not in the detail that we were hoping for. So why don't we start with the total quantity of cars? I've heard the number 1,000 plus cars. Is it actually over 1,000?
Again, it's 1,000 plus, really. I mean, that's the kind of number that we're throwing out right now, because we want people to first digest that information and realize that really there's no other game out there that has that amount of vehicles.
Yeah, that is
ever.
It would probably be easier for you to tell me how many vehicles are not in the game than are in the game. Is
exactly, basically, and that'd be two.
Okay, two cars. All right. Now, a lot of focus has been put on the premium versus standard, and there are some differences between the premium and standard cars. First off, of the 1,000, how many do you think will be the premium cars versus the standard cars?
Again, you know, it's one of these things. There's a lot of news that we want to share so bad, you know. And this E3 we were really using to focus on the launch date, which a lot of people had a question about. They've constantly been asking us, when are we releasing? When are we releasing? And that is our big announcement. You know, November 2nd is going to be the day that Gran Turismo 5 is going to be out on the shelves for everyone to pick up.
Okay.
To get those 1,000+ cars and all the tracks and the premium versus standard, and get all the features that we've been talking about today at E3.
Well, okay, just a rough number? Can you give me a percentage? Will it be like 10%, 20? I mean, ballpark, anything?
Again, it's one of those things. We're really not sharing that information right now, but as soon as we get closer to our launch date, we're gonna be talking about that information.
Well, let's go back to some of the differences between the standard and premium. I've heard the premium cars will have these very, very elaborate cockpits.
Again, there's so many things that we are going to do in the game as a whole. The cockpit view is something that's so cool. It really, that is what brings the game right into you, and we're really happy in the way that we've implemented the cockpit view, not just on the standard definition, but also, I don't say standard definition, the flat, I guess, like non-3D. But when you play in 3D, that's when it really blows you away. I mean, at that point, you put those glasses on and you're driving, it feels like the entire car is just wrapped around you. It's amazing.
Okay, well, let's stay on I'm going to come back to the standard versus premium. Let's go back to the 3D since you brought it up. This is using the shutter glass technology by Sony, is that correct?
Yeah, everything is Sony proprietary. You've got the glasses, you've got the Sony Bravia, and running on PlayStation 3.
And what type of extra peripherals will I need? I mean, I need a special type of monitor to do that. Is that?
Yeah, so definitely you need the 3D capable TV, and you need the glasses.
Right.
In terms of the hardware itself, it's just a PlayStation, a regular PlayStation, any PlayStation actually. You do not have to go out and buy a new one. All you do is just connect online and download the firmware upgrade that comes through for free, and then you're good to go.
And has that already been implemented into the Sony lineup?
It's the final announcement for the firmware update has not been made public yet, but it's in the pipeline and it's coming out.
Okay. Now you also have some head tracking on this one that we're using. That's not built into the 3D. That's a completely different system. Is that right?
Again, the head tracking is using the PlayStation camera, the PlayStation Eye, and what that's doing is constantly feeding the position of your head to the game to relay that as live in-camera movements.
Excellent. Now let's go back to the premium versus standard. I'm going to keep coming back to this till you give me the answers I want.
All right.
But what about damage? I know the premium cars I've heard, are going to have very elaborate damages, scratches, body panels coming off. When I heard it, it was talked about like it would be part of the premium. Is that, again, something that's going to be across the board, or is it going to be restricted to certain types of cars?
Well, we're really happy to talk about damage. A lot of people, it's one of those things, like, when's it coming out? Is there damage?
And interior view.
And we are definitely going to have damage in the game. In terms of what vehicles are going to have it, all vehicles are going to have a certain degree of damage. So you're going to be able to really experience what people have been asking for a long time in terms of like scratches and dents, etc.
And what about physical damage? Will you feel the damage? Will there be like a change in camber?
Of course. There is going to be performance damage is what we're calling it. Performance damage in terms of how the car is functioning after impact. But then again, we don't want to make it too real.
Right. You got to keep it playable, or at least that's your goal.
Of course, it's one of those things that you start to realize that because it's such a realistic game, we have to constantly ask permission from the auto manufacturers in terms of what kind of damage we can show. What can we do? Can we do this? Can we do that? Like one of the and learning through the process, like one of the things you can't do is the vehicle can never completely stop running. So regardless of the amount of damage that you do incur, it will always run. And that's just kind of a manufacturer request. And because we work so closely with them and they know us, it's a constant give and take in terms of that.
Now, is that something that might come down from one manufacturer, a handful, or is that like across the board?
It's pretty much across the board. All the manufacturers are very adamant that the vehicles do not ever stop functioning.
Now, I saw some cars in the game that I don't think I've ever seen in real life. How many types of vehicles are there? Like, the Formula One, the NASCAR. I mean, you have such a wide variety of cars.
Yeah, so we're really happy to be showing NASCAR. Obviously, you just mentioned that. NASCAR, we have WRC, we have JGTC, the Japanese Racing Series. What's really cool about it is that because Gran Turismo has such an international wide appeal, it allows us to introduce like different racing series to people that have never heard about it before. like Europeans are not really familiar with NASCAR,
Right.
but now they will be able to, take some of those cars around. And what's really cool for NASCAR is that you'll be able to take the car outside of the oval track and put it on road courses.
Right.
It gives it a little more, a different feel to it.
Okay, let's stay on the NASCAR aspect of this. When it comes to oval racing, a big part of it is actually setting the car up. Making a car turn left, or mostly left, is very important. Is there setup changes or differences in setup for setting up the NASCAR compared to the other cars based on the fact that it's a oval type car?
In Gran Turismo 5 Prologue, there was a tuning feature that allowed you to change the specific elements of how your car was like balanced in terms of how you wanted to perform in a race. So that feature is going to make its way over into Gran Turismo 5. But in terms of like how we're going to implement that, that's going to be something we're going to announce as we get closer to November 2nd.
Do you think you'll be able to actually stagger the car so that it actually tunes differently on the left side versus the right? Like,
again, it's one of those things that as we get closer to our launch date, we're going to be making more announcements as to how we were implementing the tuning feature in the game.
Okay. Now on the NASCAR, I saw, a whole bunch of the pro drivers, real names, real car things. What about like the Formula One? Are you going to see like a full grid of Formula One cars to choose from? Will there be a select amount of cars to look at?
Formula One is a very specific license, and we are not really exploring that right now.
Okay. What about like the WRC or some of the other ones? Are we looking at multiple paint schemes or like the whole series? Or, I mean, again, when I was seeing the NASCAR content, it looked like a good percentage of the field. So I'm wondering what other pro series are getting that kind of attention.
We are definitely having WRC cars, and in terms of the amount of cars, that final amount, again, it's one of those things that we can't really talk about just right now.
Now we know it's going to be 1,000+ cars. Do we know how many tracks are going to be in this game?
We haven't really started releasing that information either, but we do have a lot of new tracks that we're showing here today, and like one of them is Toscana, which is a fictitious rally track. And the reason I really love showing people that track is because that's where you get to see, like I said before, the particle, the dynamic lighting effects,
yes,
and the enhanced special effects where you see the dirt flying and you catch the light, and it's stuff like that. There's a lot of new tracks out there with multiple variations. We have Nürburgring, and we have Nordschleife, and we have the GP configuration. So that's just one track with multiple settings.
Right. Okay. What about like downloadable content? Do you think there will be a future for Gran Turismo in terms of add-ons or things that people can expect in the future after the release, obviously?
Again, we really have not discussed any of those items yet, and we'll be making announcements on anything that has to do with DLC as we get closer to launch.
Okay. A lot of sim companies will get feedback from pro drivers, have them come in, play with it, test it, maybe tell them changes to the car or even changes to the track. Have you guys used feedback from drivers and made changes to the sim based on it?
Well, I know that Sebastian Loeb is a big fan of the game, and he's constantly over at Polyphony Studio. He's tested out the game a couple of times. There's definitely conversations going on between him and Kazunori. And in the US side, we have a couple of drift drivers like Tanner Faust, good fan of ours. Always comes, he comes to the office, tests out the game, gives us his feedback on some for what he thinks should be, how you should tune this, tune that. In the premiere video that we showed at E3, showed Kazunori speaking with Sebastian Vettel and Adrian Newey. So obviously there's some conversations going on over there.
Now we're on the subject of tracks. A lot of companies will use various different methods, laser scanning, GPS data, photos. How do you guys go about the process of making a track?
It's definitely a very intense process. We do photo shoots, we do scanning, we do GPS data, we do architectural data. Anything that's disposable and has a number, we try to get that.
Okay. All right. So how many cars are going to be premium? Chris, thank you very much. We're really, really looking forward to Gran Turismo 5, and can't wait to try it out for real in our shop.
Pleasure to have you guys.
All right, thank you.
How'd you like to win a Fanatec Porsche Carrera wheel to enhance your Gran Turismo 5 experience? To enter, all you have to do is be a subscriber to our YouTube channel here at Sim Racing Tonight and post a comment in this Gran Turismo 5 special report that says, "I want a Carrera for GT5." Winner will be picked randomly from all entries and posted at InsideSimRacing.tv on July 31st. Comments must be posted by July 30th, 2010 to be eligible. Winner will also be notified via YouTube mail. 1 entry per person allowed. Feel your sim racing experience come to life with the Butt Kicker Gamer 2 by Githammer. To enhance your F1 2010 experience, you can get $10 off a Gamer 2 now by going to InsideSimRacing.tv and clicking on the Butt Kicker banner to take advantage of this offer. Live the game and feel the music with a Butt Kicker Gamer 2 for $119.99. Only at InsideSimRacing.tv. Does not include shipping and handling. Offer ends October 31st, 2010.
Okay, so there's Sean's interview with Chris.
Guy wouldn't say a word.
Not much.
Nice guy.
Yeah, he was a cool guy. And you know what? He's just doing his job. You know,
Yeah.
we were just talking about that during the commercial break. And, you know, in his position, better to say too little than too much. And I got a feeling we wouldn't see Chris anymore if he said too much.
That's right. We will be seeing him again when we go there to check it out for real. Or
Exactly. Yeah, we'll talk about that more at the end here. But okay, so back to our take on this. A couple subjects that Sean didn't get to see, except for maybe now after the show. But photo mode is a new thing that they announced, where you're able to take your car and put it in a bunch of different locations. Like right now, you in Prologue, you know, you got your desktop,
Right.
with the cool location.
Yeah, I love it. The music playing.
Exactly. You can now within that location or city or whatever it is, you can move the car to different
And take
areas.
whatever angle. So if you're an
Exactly.
artistic type, you can set it just the way. And for me, it means I can, you know, probably send that picture to my friends, be like, hey, check out my new Ferrari when I was in Italy.
Yeah, exactly. You can change the focal length, shutter speed, f-stop. I mean, all sorts of stuff. You know, just like a real camera, and
Right on.
you know, take your pictures. You know, it's Forza 3 had something like that, and now Gran Turismo 5 is going to.
There you
So
go.
that was pretty cool. Not really for me. I mean, I could see myself doing it a couple times, but I want to drive.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Speaking of driving, multiplayer. Lots of changes to this versus Prologue. Prologue was just a crapshoot. You know, no configurability as far as being able to race against your friends. It was just arrive and race whoever is on that server.
Right.
Now you have your own lounge, where I think up to 48 people can be
Wow.
congregating.
So
48
you can actually
of your
coordinate
friends.
some events.
Yeah. From there, you can spectate, which was really cool. Kazunori did it while we were sitting there. He logged into a server, and you could change cars and watch the race in progress, which was really neat. And full configurability,
Right.
it looks like. I mean, you're going to be able to pretty much run whatever you want. 16 cars, which is
Gotta love that.
cool. I mean, that's a decent field.
Yeah,
You know, I was
absolutely.
just talking with some guys about some hardcore sim racing, and you know, we were talking about multi-class racing, and you know, we could race up to 50 cars on some of
Sure.
these sims. But you know, I was saying, you know, I like to race at least 12 to 16 cars, especially on
Yeah.
some of these bigger tracks. Le Mans, I mean, you only got 8 cars. No offense, Forza, but
After
you
the
only got
first
8
lap, you never see another guy.
Yeah, I mean, it gets so spread out. Sometimes there's no racing. So I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So really looking forward to that multiplayer. That sounds like it's going to be a lot
Me
of
too.
fun.
You could have some real good events there.
Yep. 3D.
Ah,
Now this is something you can talk about.
very much so. I love
and,
3D.
And comment on. You know what? Before we went to the show, I saw somebody had posted at GT Planet. I just want to give a shout out to those guys over there. You got a great site there, Jordan. But I saw a post about 3D not being what it was cracked up to.
I actually kind of disagree on that.
I totally disagree with that, and I
Yeah.
dug it. I thought it was really cool, really added depth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing. If you're sitting too far from that monitor, you know, big thing in sim racing that a lot of times is overlooked is field of view.
Yeah,
If you're sitting too far from the screen, I mean, most gamers will sit on the couch, you know.
sure. I don't care if you have a
5
46-inch. If you're that far away, it doesn't matter.
Your depth, as far as driving a car, it changes. You need to have the proper field of view based on what it would be like to drive that car.
Right.
And if you go in your real car and look out the windshield, you're not looking at the dash.
Yeah.
A lot of times you're looking pretty much out the windshield.
Yeah, and if you think about it in your personal car, you actually have to turn your head to look at the mirrors.
Yeah, so I loved the 3D. Back to the 3D, I thought it was amazing. It really added a lot. If it's set in a proper setting, you got to be close. I did run on a rig that was too far, like the one in the press center that we ran.
Yeah.
It was almost too far to really get the good good field, the depth of field, and the good feel for 3D. But man, when it's right, it's awesome.
I myself have been playing with quite a bit of different 3D systems lately, and I got to tell you, in the future, we will all be using 3D because it just adds so much to, especially driving sims, all gaming, I think, or movies or whatever. But 3D is going to be here for everybody. For me, 3D is really annoying if I'm not the guy driving because the double image. So it's like it ruins everything for everybody else. The Sony one actually was a little bit less distracting. So when I was watching you driving in 3D, for example, I actually was pretty comfortable watching. It wasn't annoying versus some other systems. Now maybe that changes how much depth is being done in the 3D as well. I don't know. I'm not a guru of 3D technology yet.
Yeah, but it's pretty cool. I really liked it a lot. If I had my choice 3D or not, I'd definitely go with 3D.
Absolutely.
It eliminates the need really for triple screens.
Yeah.
That was another question that came up. I have no idea. I have not seen any setups with it, but I'm assuming that it's going to be possible. It was possible on the PS2 with Gran Turismo 4, so I'd imagine it's going to be possible now.
And Forza does it, so.
Yeah, Gran Turismo 5's got to keep up there. So, again, 3D, I loved it. Thought it was amazing. You know, my only concern with it, and this is just real quick, I don't want to spend too much time on it, is, man, what does it do to your eyes?
I was thinking the same thing.
That would, you said everybody's going to be doing it. I don't know if I'm really comfortable.
Remember the movie The Jerk? For those of you of my age.
No, let's not even go there. So anyway, I don't know. It's just a little sketchy there, but it's awesome. It looks really cool. So next up, day to night transitions.
Are we going to talk about head tracking at all?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for reminding me, Sean. Head tracking. We got to kind of try it. It wasn't set up properly up at that press center, but it seems to work kind of like a track IR. It seemed to just work left to right. I didn't see the up and down, or did you?
It was hard to tell. Again, it wasn't working perfectly. There's a lot of people around that might have been throwing the little camera off. It is just like track IR, and at some point we'll get to test it. In driving, I'll take 3D over track IR.
I would too.
So, I mean,
in a combination, I guess this is the first game to offer both 3D with head tracking like that. So,
and you don't have to wear a stupid hat or clip on.
Well, you do have to have the glasses though for the 3D.
Yeah, but not the head tracking.
True.
Okay.
So yeah, that was cool though. So next up, day to night transitions.
One more thing on the head tracking. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
If you know those 200 premium content cars with the elaborate cockpit view, I want the head tracking. I want to be able to look around because you could definitely see more detail, and that's where it's going to pay off huge.
Yep, I agree. Now can we go to day to night transitions?
Yes.
Okay. Day to night transitions, amazing. Just the lighting, how everything's done, is just incredible. The only track that they had running it on, and it was like accelerated, and I hope you can do that, you know, for online racing, is Toscana, the rally track, and it was just, at night, it was really tough to see, and it was cool.
Very realistic, though.
Yeah, it was really neat. And then one of the things that's really cool about Gran Turismo 5 is the illumination in the smoke and in the dirt from the lights coming off of the car at night.
Right.
I've never seen something like that in a video game. And it's just amazing.
Some of the little intricate details of that too. You don't see edges or defining lines. It's a beautiful blend when you're looking at like the beams of light or where the edge of the dirt or smoke is. It's really amazing.
I agree there. And on the night part, headlights are going to be modeled in the cars, obviously, and you're going to have the ability to have an auto flasher on some of the race cars, I'm assuming. So
that'll be cool.
Yeah, if you got dual classes going or just racing against slower cars, you're going to be able to flash your headlights, which I hate, by the way, in night racing. I hate when people are just flashing because people abuse it.
Sure.
So. Next up, there's going to be a driving school included. Just really touch quickly on that. They didn't go into detail, but there's going to be one included. We mentioned the rules. NASCAR is going to have all that. I don't know how detailed those are going to be. I was told that you're going to be able to race full-length races, so I'm assuming pit stops and all that are going to come into play.
I saw a picture of a crew servicing a car.
Yeah, so that should be cool. And so that's pretty much going to wrap this up for us. Hopefully you guys got to see some cool footage. I mean, we had that camera rolling as much as we could.
Yeah.
Our rep told me we really couldn't square up, so this is the best we could do.
We got a lot of footage.
But we did get a lot of footage, yeah. In closing, I'd like to say that this definitely fills that void on the PS3. You know, this is the PS3's Forza, where Forza on the Xbox 360 is the Gran Turismo. So it's like they each have their killer driving game, and you know what? They're pretty damn close.
Yeah, and they complement each other. I mean, they're very similar and they're different in their own ways. If you have Forza, you should be jealous of everybody with Gran Turismo, but that doesn't mean you have to have it. You're sitting on a great sim, and vice versa. I mean,
or if you have both, man, you're styling. You got lots of cars and lots of different variables as far as, you know, Forza, you want to be a painter and do all that stuff. You got that. By the way, I didn't hear anything about painting your own rides in Gran Turismo.
No customization, I don't think.
Nope, I didn't hear anything about that. So that's pretty much it. I mean, we are going to hopefully in August or right after they show the full version at Gamescom in Germany, we're not going to go. If anybody out there can attend for us and wants to report for us.
Or anyone wants to send us.
Yeah, we'd love to go, but have someone there for us. But Santa Monica Sony, my contact, which I'd like to thank Alex for hooking us up. I mean,
great guy. Yeah,
great guy. Mercedes-Benz event. We got to go into the press center. Got to go into the breakout session with Kazunori. Alex, thank you so much for everything you've done, and looking forward to working with you more in the future. And again, hopefully out there we'll have something really cool for you before the launch. November 2nd is the official launch date.
Yeah.
Heard Europe, that's the North American launch date, by the way. Europe, I think, is November 24th, so why we're getting it first, I mean, I think it's great.
Makes up for Superbike.
Everybody should get it all at the same time. But anyway, that's going to do it. Shootout's coming.
Yeah, everybody's asking for it.
Versus Gran Turismo 5. We'll have that sometime probably by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So hope you enjoyed our take on Gran Turismo 5.
Yep.
So there you have our E3 special report on Gran Turismo 5. We hope that you guys enjoyed it. This episode is sponsored by SimRaceway.com, home of online racing. We have some more E3 exclusives to bring to you, and we hope that you enjoyed this Gran Turismo special.